Powerhouse, presented by Alliant Energy.
Alliant Energy, we're on for you.
Living through a natural disaster is scary, but it can be devastating to find out the damage that's been left behind. Today we're going to talk about assessing the damage in a safe way from a utility company's point of view. This is Victor Brown from Alliant Energy. And Victor, after a natural disaster, in this case, in this home it was a flood, they're currently rebuilding. What's the first thing a homeowner needs to do?
The first thing the homeowner needs to do is assess the damage, and safety is number one. So I always say you need to bring in a qualified licensed electrician, and you would need a qualified plumber or heating contractor to make sure everything on the gas side is up to code.
So we need to bring in an electrician. Where does the utility company's responsibility end and the electrician's responsibility begin?
It's a good question. When the overhead line comes into the house, there's three little wires that we attach onto. That's called the point of attachment. From that point on down to the meter, that's all customer owned. That's why it's important that you bring in a qualified licensed electrician. They're going to have to check all that out for that homeowner and everything on the inside. On the gas side, it's the same thing. Where our meter set connects with their pipe coming out of the house, that's where we stop and that customer's property starts. And so they'll need that plumber or heating contractor to make sure and check everything on their end, make sure everything's right.
Okay, so the meter itself is the responsibility of the utility company.
Correct.
If there is a damaged meter, like there was in this case, what are some safety concerns that we need to think about?
The number one safety concern with broken meters is the glass. And sometimes they're cracked. There could be metal, sharp edges, things of that nature, depending on, if something banged into it or not. You just want to be safe around those meters.
Okay. Tell us what we see right here with this odd-looking meter setup.
What we have here is a temporary service. The customer hired an electrician. They came out and they set this, and it looks like they're going to use this for electricity until the permanent repairs and everything is done in the house. Once everything is done on the house, they're going to call in an inspection from the city. They'll come over and they'll check everything, make sure everything is right, and then they'll go ahead and call us, and then we'll come out and make permanent connections to the home. And then they'll take this away.
Speaking of power, a lot of people have operated generators for their sump pumps, their shop vacs. Can you talk about generator safety?
Generators are great. The number one safety concern with generators is the back feed. There's a potential for back feed. If they're not hooked up correctly, they can potentially backfeed onto the service wire, and a lot of times it's better to call on the front end, have us come out, make sure that those are being hooked up correctly for safety reasons. There's usually a lever on a generator that says line side and load side. Some people call that a transfer switch. We want to make sure that that switch is there to ensure that that backfeed is not going on to the system.
Now, like I said earlier, this was a flood situation. A lot of people have sump pumps. Do you have any advice for those people?
If you have a sump pump, it's important to invest in a battery backup. A lot of times the power goes off, whether it's a flood or a tornado with the high winds, power is going to go off. If there's water present, that pump's not going to come on and operate. So it's better to have that battery backup to make sure that you keep getting that water out of your basement.
Now, once a house is restored, the power is ready to go on. How do we get the job done?
What you need to do first is contact the city. You call the city and they'll have an inspector. They'll come in, they'll check to make sure everything was put back, basically reconnected based on the current codes and conditions of today. And once that's done, they'll call in to Alliant, and then Alliant will come out and make the permanent connections.
Thanks for being with us, Victor. This is great information. We can't stress the importance of safety enough when you're assessing the damage from a natural disaster.